Yeah, such an honor to be here again with y'all at the Metro Serra Club. I spoke 2 or 3 years ago when I was a seminarian, a mere seminarian, and so very honored to be back and just share once again my, just story, my vocation story, the journey to the priesthood, and yeah, also the journey after that I'm just beginning, which is really exciting. And so it's also really good. I was a little nervous because I knew there was a lot of members here that are from St. Monica. I feel like everyone at St. Monica has heard me give my vocation story like 100 times. So I'm really glad that there's other people here this time. But yeah, my call to join seminary was not one of booming thunder or a voice from the Lord, but it was a very just natural. Well, not natural, but very slow progression since I was a young kid. When I was about in 3rd or 4th grade, okay, I'm trying. 3rd or 4th grade, for whatever reason, my mom drugged me to daily mass. And it was then that I just fell in love with the mass. I really liked going to daily mass, meeting all the elder ladies that were there. I was the youngest by like 35 years, I think. But I just fell in love with just, that community of the same people that were there every day. And even as a young kid, I could see the dedication of the faithful of St. Mark Parish. But then maybe a little bit of pride, some jealousy got in the way because I wanted to be an altar server, but I wasn't old enough yet. You had to be in 5th grade. Yet there was this other boy who was definitely younger than I was getting to serve. And so then it was my mission to become a server for that reason. And so we asked the pastor and he said, yeah, you can serve daily mass, right, until, you go through like the training and, whatever, you get old enough. And so I met this other server that was there and got to know him very well, and his family would come to mass a lot. And then we realized that we each were going to serve every day, and we didn't want to serve together, right? We wanted to serve separately. So he humbled himself and went to the early 6:30 a.m. mass, let me have the 8 a.m. mass. But we were, kind of the daily mass summer servers. And so kind of throughout those years from like 4th to 8th grade, I was serving mass and Sunday mass and just getting more involved in the parish, getting to know his family. And finally, his mom, I was in 8th grade, came up to my parents and said, my son is a deacon studying in Rome. Y'all should go over there and visit him before he graduates. Right? You have like 6 months. And so my family said, okay, perfect. Yeah, we'll go. And so, yeah, we went with another good friend of mine and his parents. And it was over there that it kind of all just seemed to come together for me, right? My elementary, middle school knowledge of the church, of the history of the church, the faith, and just seeing the history and the just the magnitude that our church has, right, in Rome at the headquarters, so to speak. And I just knew at that age that there's something really important and really real about our faith. And so we'd go to evening prayer with the seminarians and go to tours of the churches. And toward the end of that trip, we were in the Colosseum. I could take you there right now. And I walked away from my family and friends because I got hit with this thought of I need to commit to discerning if I'm called to priesthood or not. Not committing to the priesthood, but committing to discerning it. And it was in the Colosseum on the top level, I think on the eastern side, that I said, Lord, I'm going to at least give you a shot, right? I'm going to think about it and learn what this entails. But we'll see what high school brings. I still had to go 4 years of high school. And so I got to high school and was just welcomed by the Jesuits that were there and I owe so much to one in particular, but all the Jesuits that were there at that time. So I got there and I said, hey, just to let you know, I want to be a priest. And they were like, that's great. You should come on a Jesuit retreat and da-da-da. I said, hold on. I'm not becoming a Jesuit, though. You can help me become a priest, but it's not going to be a Jesuit. So, take it or leave it. And they said, okay, right, we'll support you and we'll help you. And just throughout those years of talking with them and going to daily mass there in the little chapel, just every year was just another, I think the Lord is calling me to do this. And then senior year came around, and Jesuit strongly encourages you to apply to 10 colleges so that, you can get into your number one, or if not, at least number two, and really that you get into one. And so I told them, I'm only applying to one. And they're like, okay, we're going to put you in a separate category, and which was great. And one of the counselors that was there helped me write my entrance essay to UD and in the application process and all. And that was what I did. I said, I'm applying to UD and Holy Trinity, and that's it. And graduated from Jesuit and then just entered seminary. And that was, a new path. And that counselor that actually helped me write those essays 2 or 3 years after that joined seminary himself, and he's in the Jesuits. And I haven't seen him since that day when I was in high school until 2 weeks ago. He came in town at St. Rita's, and I ran into him again. So it's just really full circle progression there. I got to get really close. So I went to UD in Holy Trinity, and I'd been going there, on these Serra Club Sundays. My mom's very involved with the Serra Club North Central, yeah. So she's very involved in that, and so we went to all the Sunday donuts and Spes Gregis dinners, and I got to know the freshmen, and so by the time I became a freshman, they were seniors. So I already knew a good group of guys and felt very welcomed. And that was the place I knew I'd always wanted to be, and I was finally there. But the Lord had different plans. And so by the end of that year, just realizing that was not the place for me, and it was just not successful. And so they offered me to go to another seminary in Covington, Louisiana. And to give you a little bit background on my family, we've been in Dallas since it was founded, since it started. So I think I'm a 6th generation. My mom's the oldest of 8. They all live north of 635, east of the tollway. So we're all right there. And so for me to move out of state was unheard of. But I took that leap and I said, Lord, we'll see what happens. Worst case, I don't like it and I'll get to move back home. But, in his plan and his grace and the gifts and goodness that he gives us, I fell in love with New Orleans and ended up staying there the next 8 years. And so I was at a Benedictine Abbey, which is Benedictine monks, and their work is to run a seminary for diocesan priests. Very interesting. But great place, and there's about anywhere from 150 to 170 guys per year. So it's a big seminary, and self-contained out in the middle of nowhere, Louisiana. And so, just fell in love with New Orleans there and continued this journey of discernment. And then senior year rolled around, and as you know or should know with seminarians, you hit this period of crisis, And it's the Lord, I think, gives you that so that you can become stronger in your vocation. Looking back, in the time when I hit this crisis senior year, I said, I'm out, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. The underclassmen are weird, and if this is, if this is priesthood, then I don't want it. And so I called the vocation director and my parents, and I just said, want to let you know, get my room ready. I'm moving back home, and so over this short period of time, working with spiritual director and whatnot, I realized, okay, I just need to get out, right, of college and get on to grad school. And that was really, I think, the answer the Lord wanted me to experience, right, of just that struggle a little bit of, right, the gold in the furnace of being, purified and making the intentions and all that, right, more founded. So then moved down to downtown New Orleans and finished out theology there. And by that point, you kind of are 4 years in by this point, so like your yes shouldn't really mean yes. And it was just a process of just, solidifying that yes to the Lord and entering formation for the diaconate mostly. In between those years, right in the middle, you do what we call a pastoral year, and I was assigned to St. Monica for that. And so it's really nice being back at St. Monica, having already been there and knowing, the staff and just how everything kind of works. And then, I got ordained a deacon, and that was great. And I was at St. Pius in Mesquite for 3 months, just learning how to be a deacon and preaching a lot. And then, being ordained a priest in this past May. And I think even, right, with seminary, your vocation and the discernment doesn't end. And the same, I think, with being a deacon or a priest, right? Discernment doesn't end, but it's not so much a discernment anymore of a yes or no. It's a discernment of really how is the Lord, right, calling me to live out my priesthood now. And so to be honest, I'm still figuring that out, having only been a priest for 4 months and at the parish for 2.5. But it's been, just such a joy these past 2 months. And, a lot of people ask, right, what's the best thing about being a priest? And really, it's all of it, right? Confessions are, I think, just unique to priesthood. And so I remember that first day I put on a stole and sat in the confessional. I was shaking, waiting on the penitents to come in. I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm a priest. But it's, such a joy just to be able to really offer, the sacraments of Christ. There's one other thought I was going to say, but I forgot. And so, is what I told the seminarians. And so they asked me to speak to the seminarians every year. We get together for, a week each year called convocation, where you kind of go over the business items for the year and get to see everyone. And so they always ask one of the new priests to come up and talk. And I was really strong on that these 9 years were worth it. Even though I had to, have maybe a more difficult year my first year, or move to New Orleans and be away, and all these things that I can kind of say, poor me about, or it was rough or whatever, right? It really wasn't. But it was so worth it. And that's what I was telling these guys, that, so many times in seminary, the devil doesn't want you to be a priest. He actively, comes after you in so many different ways. And when you figure one way out and you get that resolved, it comes another way. And so just for them to see that and to know, their vocation and the amount of people praying for them. I always relied on the prayers of the Serrans, just knowing that that's the nature and function of Serra Club, is to pray for vocations. And, vocations is not just entering in your first year. Vocations is that constant commitment as a seminarian that they make to their formation, and as priests, as deacons, as bishops, whatever it is, to pray for them for that continued commitment that they've made to the Lord. So that's a little bit about me, about my vocation story. I'm happy to open it up to any questions, and I'll give you free rein on those. Any questions or curiosities you might have, be just happy to answer those for you.
Did your mom and dad, did your family know from the get-go that this was going to be?
So the question was, did my family know from the get-go, from the beginning, that this was going to be? I gave them signs, that's for sure. I was 5 years old, and I asked my mom to buy 2 cruets that we use at Mass. And because I wanted to celebrate Mass in my room. And so she bought them for me, and I think she told me a while back, my grandma was like, "What? You're buying him cruets?" She was like, "I don't know." So there were signs. And I think, just serving. And if you ask any of my good friends I'm still friends with from St. Mark's and Jesuit, they would tell you they've always known as well. And so they're in a different camp because they saw me before seminary and, my entire life growing up. And as perfect as everyone likes to think I am, right? I'm not. I haven't always been. And so, but to them, they were, they would say the same. It just, right, can see it. And they might have even saw it more than I did, most of the time. So
why did you not want to become a Jesuit?
So the question was, why did I not want to become a Jesuit? And it's nothing against the Jesuits, but right, every order has their own kind of charism, and right with the Jesuits, you kind of sign up knowing that you're going to live somewhere else the rest of your life, and you're going to be a teacher. And my academic history would show I cannot be a teacher, and again, born and raised here in Dallas. We're from Dallas, and to me, living somewhere else just did not appeal. And just seeing the example of the parish priest just really appealed to, right, serving the people that are close to me, to be that, the priest that has the connections of friends and family, like right here, could, hopefully be more effective or just more welcoming, those to the church when I'm here. So that was a big reason. Yeah.
I'm dying to know this answer because we don't have minor seminaries anymore. Do you think you might have been a candidate for a minor seminary? What's your general thoughts on that? Maybe not just for yourself, but minor seminaries. What do you think?
Hot takes.
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess when you say minor seminary, you're referring to like high school seminaries.
Yeah,
right?
I have a friend that was a Vincentian. He's 75 years old, but he joined minor. So in 8th grade, he knew he was going to be a priest. So instead of going through high school, he started 4 years earlier.
Right. Yeah. So back in the day, that was the thing to do, and I think, I don't know the answer. I wasn't in those meetings, but I would think that, right, just high school is such a young age to commit as well. And in seminary, there is, this talk of commitment, which I think is good, but, maybe to a high schooler, they're just not ready for that commitment yet. That's still, those 4 years are still big areas in time of like development and just growth in life. And so I would assume that's why we don't have it. Would I have been a candidate? I don't know. Now that I'm a priest, you could maybe say I was, but looking back before I was even in high school, probably not. Yeah. All right.
Back here, just a tough question for you. Of all the influences on your vocation, all across the board, family, and then all those years of formation with different seminaries, can you point to one that you think was the very heart of your vocation and your discernment? I know it's different for every priest, but I'm just curious for you. 9 years is a lot of
Mm-hmm.
but do you think this is something that was in your heart and family upbringing?
So yeah, I guess the question is what was the biggest influence in those 9 years? I think one, the support from my parents was huge, and just the encouragement that they gave me. But also just the nature and kind of work of seminaries now. I can't point to necessarily maybe like one formator or one spiritual director. They were all huge. And it's, to be honest, it was hard to see at times that like they really have your best interest, right? But when you get to the end of it, you realize, okay, these are priests that were in my spot at one point, and their work now is to form priests for the future, and so they are invested in the work that they're doing. So I think, just across the board with the priests that were at Holy Trinity when I was there, at St. Ben's, St. Joseph's in Covington, Notre Dame, the way the Holy Spirit works through them. Right, some were really challenging, and others were, really supportive. And so it just depends on the time and what was needed there. When I had that little crisis senior year, I went into this one spiritual director who's a Jesuit, and I don't think you'd mind me telling this story, but I told him, I'm thinking about leaving. I've been telling you this for a while. I think I'm going to leave. And he goes, okay, do it. And I was like, well, okay, I wasn't ready for that. And he's like, yeah, go for it. And so I was like, okay. And in looking back, and he finally admitted, it was part of his plan. And so he's like, if you came back in 2 weeks and said you're going to, then I would, change approach. But he's like, I had a feeling you're just, you had to go through this, and everyone does. And so, he was one of the big influences, via negativa, I guess, right? Just being like, go ahead. No, okay. But throughout the years, just a lot of influences.
Is there anything unexpected as a priest that you weren't, foreseen as in formation?
Yeah. So in seminary, they tell you, we're going to try and teach you everything, and it's 9 years of trying to learn everything, and especially our last year as a deacon, it was very practical on how it works at the parish. And they tell you, we're gonna try our best to prepare you for it all, and then day one you realize that wasn't a lot. They did prepare you a lot, but just the nature of priesthood, there's so much and so many different things. So I think that for me was just the surprise was, being prepared, but you can't prepare for every instance, and that's every part of life. You can't prepare for the small instances, and so I think that for me now, still discerning priesthood of finding these different methods and just routines and things that can help throughout the day. A couple Saturdays ago, I did 4 sacraments in one day, and so it was baptism and mass in the morning, a baptism, confession, last rites. I think there was one other, a wedding, all in one day, and those all have a different emotional weight to them, a different personality, dealing with different people, and in seminary, when you're in the classroom, it's just the whiteboard, and so it's, but, also at the end of the day, I realized, wow, I wouldn't have traded any of that for this crazy, hectic day or whatever, but just to see how the Lord brings people to his priests, to his church, and it's a joy just to be there to welcome them. So that was biggest surprise. Any other questions? I don't know what the time limit.
That's good. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
All right, well, thanks so much.
Thank you, Carter.